Once there was a businessman whose business was failing. He was in a lot of debt, and it just seemed to him as if everything he spent years building was falling apart around him. And in his utter disappointment and disillusionment with what was happening to him, he sat down on a park bench, wondering if there was anything he could do to save his company. And as he sat there, an old man suddenly stood next to him and asked him what was troubling him. And before he could stop himself, he just blurted out his whole story. And the old man then looked at him and said, "I think I can help." And he asked the man's name, wrote a check, handed it to him and said, "Meet me here exactly 1 year from today, and you can pay me back then." And then he turned and walked away. The businessman looked at a check in his hand, and it was for $500,000 and signed by John D. Rockefeller, one of the richest people at that time in the world. He couldn't believe it. He knew that a check in his hand could take all his financial worries away in an instant. Yet, instead of taking it to the bank, he put the uncashed check in his safe. And just knowing it was there, that he didn't have to worry about failing, he suddenly had renewed confidence and the strength to try again where he felt he previously failed. And so he looked at his situation with more optimism than before, looking for solutions rather than being overwhelmed by his problems. And he worked at every business deal with everything he had, thinking that even if he failed, he would be okay. He would still survive. And so within a few months, he started turning his business around and he cleared his debt. And by the time he had to pay the money back, he was quite successful again. And as he sat waiting on the park bench with the uncashed check in his hand, he saw the old man approach him and he couldn't wait to tell him what happened. However, just as he stood up to greet the man, a nurse came running towards him and grabbed the old man by the arm, saying, "Well, thank goodness I caught him. I hope he didn't bother you. He's forever escaping from the nursing home and telling people he is John D. Rockefeller." And she turned him around and walked away with the old man. And the businessman was obviously a little bit stunned as he realized how he was doing business all year long, thinking that he had $500,000 behind him, even though he never used it. And then it dawned on him that it wasn't the money in itself that changed his fortune, but not having anxiety about it or being solely focused on his worries. The moment he felt free of the worries that plagued him, he was able to focus on his goals and what he wanted to achieve. He started seeing possibilities and had the courage to pursue them. Now, friends, we are often also so plagued by our worries, like this businessman, that it's hard for us to even see a way forward, let alone move forward. So let me just encourage you. We have someone far richer than the real Rockefeller, who promised that he will provide for our deepest needs. And he invited us to cast all our worries and our anxieties on him because he cares for us. So I want to invite you again today. Take him on his word. Put your trust in him and know that he will take care of you no matter what. May that knowledge empower you to make the most of every opportunity that comes your way.